I wanted to go back on something I kind of touched on that I said my character in Autumn was immature. It probably was not the right word. Well, she is immature in a way. Well, maybe naive is a better word. And just to explain something about the ages of my characters, my especially my females, the medieval girls, the the character in Unspoken is about 17, 18 in there. Because she's been raised in a monastery. She's a very young girl. Um, the heroine in Raven Knight is maybe 21, something like that. Because she's been married. She married very young to an older man. I think I touched on it a little bit of her story. She had hero worship this political figure in Jaffa, and of course, by her being young, she was very naive, and she was very she kind of um, gave this man attributes he didn't have. It was more like I said, it was more like hero worship, and um, she marries him, realizes she's made a mistake, pretty much to get out of her parents' home, just to get out of their home and under their out of their control. And she realizes she makes a mistake, and by her being so young, there's nothing she could do about it. Number one, the culture they were in was nothing she could do about it. And he's much much older than her. He dies. So when she's brought to England, by the Raven Knight, um, she's been married for a while and is a widow. Now, my character in Autumn, the 1820, I'm thinking she's about 20, 20-ish. Um, because around 15, 16, the mammy on the plantation, that kind of thing, she's already an old maid at, 15, 16, the mammy keeps telling her, you're going to be an old maid, you just need to marry anybody, just somebody, just because you don't want to be an old maid. And she doesn't care because she's waiting for, her lover at that point to come back to school from school. He goes away for about 3 years actually to Baltimore, and goes to like college, well, prep school, college, kind of thing. And she's left behind, and while she's left behind, um, they're on her to get married. The master and the mistress of the plantation, they built her own little house, and hoping maybe she'll start nesting, and hoping she'll take one of the slave boys to as a husband, because number one, they want another slave for in the house. They want that kind of a slave, in the home, to be with the children of the when the what they're figuring is when the their son comes back from Baltimore, that he will be ready to settle down, get married, start having his own children. And they kind of want their children to be kind of raised together. And they perceive wrongly that when he comes home, he won't be interested in her anymore, and she won't be interested in him anymore. And that they'll go on basically with their own lives, which doesn't happen. The first thing he does when he gets back, because they've been again writing each other and letters back and forth. And it's one of the things. He comes back and goes, yeah, you sure none of those boys have been down here to this new house you've got? And she's like, oh, no, 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 I've been waiting for you. So basically she does that. And I want their relationship to have a couple of years under its belt before she leaves to come to Missouri. um Her Missouri husband is a little bit older than her, and I had to make him about 36-ish. only because that of some of the things that happened in England. I needed him to be a bit older. I needed him to be a bit older because he has a grown, quote unquote, grown son, which back in that day, 18 was a grown man, 20 was a grown man. So it basically, I didn't want that big of a gap between them, but it would have been absolutely impractical for her to have been 36, 37. To it just it wouldn't have made any sense. She had to be younger. um the heroine in the World War II um book is a little bit older. She's much older. She's in her early 30s because she's an established entertainer. She's been to university. She's lived different, places. She's traveled all around the world, and she had to be, she's wrapped up in this war thing, and she just needed to be older. The third heroine in the trilogy is closer to my age. She is in her, I haven't figured out, just about late 40ish, in there, something like that. Not quite 50, in her late, 40ish, which is about the time I really kind of got the idea for this story. I was that age. And I think that's true of all the characters. When I thought them up, I was at, a certain age. And I thought, and then they had to be younger for practical reasons, because women, I mean, here I am talking about, looking for changing careers and moving and, looking for, starting to date again and do those kind of things. And, here I am making YouTube videos, and I'm all 60 years old. And, well, no, but a lot of actually in Autumn, the, the character that owns the boarding house, the woman that owns the boarding house, is a widow. So a lot of women did start over at widowhood, because for the simple reason that, she's been married, she has grown sons, she has grandchildren, and she doesn't want to be controlled anymore, by a man. She wants to go on her own, and that's why she moves to um the territory, out to the frontier, where she can open her own business and be her own woman, that kind of thing. um a lot of people ask me, no, it's not because I want to be young that I make my characters younger. No, you could not pay me to be 20 again. You could not pay me to be, it's in this day, and no, 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 no. It's just too dangerous for young women now. Um, Even though there are a lot of more opportunities for women, there is also a certain amount. I don't want to use the word danger, but that's the only word I can use for it. Much things are, there are things that were incomprehensible, you know, that happen to young women nowadays, when compared to when I was 20. I was 20 in 1975. Okay. There was hippies, and I mean that, it was a, and I think a lot of the attitude that I have a lot of about a lot of things comes back from being that age, in that era. It was a wonderful, exciting time, and it was no way I would have wanted to, that I could, be, I wouldn't want to be that age again. Not now. Not now. Also, I'm trying to think. Yeah, my the third woman in the trilogy is um the leader, more or less, of her movement, of her um and she's mature. I haven't figured out if her husband's younger. I think I'm going to make him younger than her. And I think I'm going to make him younger by about 10 years. But I haven't figured that out. I got to get the second book. I got to finish Autumn first, But you always think 2 books ahead. You always think ahead. You always think to the next book. Um Something else I kind of touched on and didn't have time to really get into because I started to run out of time, was the things that my in Autumn, my character and her man disagree about. Um For instance, he wants to put the little adopted daughter in school. She is not against the child being educated. She's all for, females being educated because it gives them choices. But she thinks she's gonna miss her, and she wants her, the little girl, around, close around her. And then it ends up, it's so funny that he's right, because once she's like, the little girl is very, very precocious, very smart, and very, and very headstrong, and she has these, couple of hours of bliss while the little girl is, at school for half session. So, that works out. Also, too, like I said before, she's involved in politics. She's They have that women's league, I was telling you about. It's the woman that owns the boarding house, the storekeeper's, the shop general store owner's wife, my character, and the two other women from the farm, the foreman's wife, and the Indian woman that also lives and works on the farm. And one more person gets voted in. Another character, a little minor character, gets voted in, and it's very difficult for her because this minor character, because she's from the South. I mean, my character, the lead character, is from the South, but this woman is a white woman from the South, and you just did not get involved in politics and that kind of thing. Um, my male character, my hero, he's okay with the beautification and the school curriculum and the holiday parties and these kind of sewing for the poor, and these sort of things are okay. um, but um, when they start getting into what he calls men's business, as a consequence, I told you about in the other video about about the outlaws that rob the stage and murder the man, and they have a trial and end up being hung. And the women really don't want this hanging to go on in their town, but there's nothing they can, do about it. And but they want to give these men a decent burial. They want to give them a decent burial, and my character is the one more or less voted, I guess, to approach, her man with the proposition, because he's like a leader of the town. He's a leader of um, the town fathers in the town. He's one of the one of the you know, like I said, he's a town father. He's in they call it the council, town council. He's, prominent in that. And he doesn't agree with this because he says, look, we've already used enough resources on them. We've already you know, because they had to eat. They had to have wood burned, for stuff, and it's just that they've used these outlaws have used that are going to hang anyway, have used so much of the town's resources. And because my character has her own fund, when he argues this, she says, well, look, I don't want to take any money from the town treasury. I'll use my own personal money. And in that way she has power, because in that day, pretty much a poor family with two or three daughters, they were just using resources. I mean, that's how it was looked at. A daughter was of no use except to bring a man, to marry, and to bring a man onto the farm to work, you know and then in turn to have children, so more, there would be more people to work, on the farm. But so educating a woman, that kind of thing. Well, pretty well-to-do women were educated to a point. They could write a letter. They would, they could read or something like that. They were educated to a point, but and take care of basic household accounting and things like that. They knew those kind of things. But educating a woman, quote unquote, was just throwing money away. It was unnecessary. But because my character has a certain amount of funds, um she's able to use her clout and say, look, we can, we don't have to use, the town's resources. We can use money because I have money. um he's he's also um my male lead, because he's English. He also, like I said, has a set idea of how she should behave, how that she should have a nurse when they finally have their own baby, and that she should have a housekeeper, someone to cook and do those kind of things in the home. And he doesn't really approve of this kind of thing, of her doing this thing. I did have a scene, I took it out, I think I'm gonna put it back in, where she goes to work in her garden, and she's wearing trousers, you know. And he says something about her. I don't remember if I left it in. I think I took it out. I think I'm gonna maybe sneak back, put that in, but maybe I don't know. And he says to her, "What?" And she's like, "I'm working in the field. A dress is stupid to wear, in the field." So that's one of a kind of cute little thing. Also, the politics of the time. I have two black women, an Indian woman, Native woman, but they said, Indian back then, an Irish woman, and these women are sitting on this um, women's league, uh, organization, which, it's not too far fetched, because these are the women that had the power in the town. They just happened to be the women who, had the power in the town. Um, Also, too, as far as, like I was saying about the Indians, that I wasn't gonna have them crazy running around scalping people and stuff. I'd scalp somebody too if they came and took my home. They came in here and said, okay, well, you can just live in the bathroom and we're gonna take the rest of this space. No. So I was not gonna do that, definitely. um Also, too, I made them be very powerful, very, very spiritual people. And I made their beliefs of their, wind spirit that they have living in the hills back there, very powerful female spiritual character. Also, too, um, I'm always harping, I know, about technology. That is why I didn't set um, my novel in the later. I didn't want to get confused with the Civil War. I didn't want that kind of technology. I didn't want trains. I didn't want um I don't know. I just didn't. It was just too cliche. I mean, having them go through the Civil War was just too cliche. And plus, I just feel that 1820s was a more interesting um, time in America. And I also didn't want it to be too far from the revolution. I still wanted America to be somewhat naive and smaller, and um, I didn't want, like I said, it's just too cliche, and especially since Gone with the Wind's been done. So I wanted to um, kind of do a different, whole different take on the thing. I didn't want it any earlier, because I thought if it was in the late 1700s, I don't know. I don't, even though I like that period, the dress and the big, skirts, and all that powder, white powder on their faces, all that kind of stuff. I kind of just, I didn't want to bother with that period either. So that's why it's taken place. And plus, too, I wanted my characters to mature and be, um, even though you don't really know what happens to them, I didn't want them involved in the Civil War. I wanted to avoid that part, that era completely. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna maybe make one more, because it's one more thing I want to talk about, Senate structure, and then it will be time for dinner.